Hi there, I'm Crystal. I am the author of Eating for Gastroparesis and Living Well with Gastroparesis, and I've spent the last 10 years helping people worldwide learn to live well with gastroparesis. In today's video, I'm bringing you a great conversation with Megan. Megan was diagnosed with gastroparesis back in 2016, and she really struggled physically, emotionally, mentally. Her story is so relatable to me, and I think you will probably find it relatable as well. But fast forward to 2021, and Megan is thriving with gastroparesis in the background of her life. She is eating foods that she never thought she'd be able to eat again, but more importantly, she is not dealing with the constant fear and worry and overwhelm and frustration that she did for so many years with gastroparesis. And so she is going to tell you all about how she got there. It's a really, really fantastic conversation. So without any further ado, here's my chat with Megan. Hi, Megan. Thanks for being here.
Hi, Crystal. Thank you for having me.
I'm really excited to talk with you today. I know that your experience of gastroparesis has transformed a lot over the last few years. It's been, I think, 4 years probably since you and I first chatted. So I know some of your story, but obviously people who are listening do not. So can you just start by telling us a little bit about when you were diagnosed with gastroparesis, what your experience was like around the diagnosis and kind of that piece of your journey, we'll call it?
Sure. Yeah. So I like you, was diagnosed with idiopathic gastroparesis, March of 2016. And prior to that, that I would say January leading up to that March, I had come down with just really unsettling symptoms that I couldn't abate with like any type of antacid, just a lot of like acid reflux. And it ultimately led very quickly to not being able to really hold anything down. And then I ended up, like a lot of people do, in the emergency room. Um, that winter of 2016, and it just kind of really, my life at that point just kind of spiraled out of control, with this. And ultimately it led me to, getting the diagnosis, taking the emptying study, which did confirm that I did have moderate delayed gastric emptying. And I, was diagnosed right over the phone from a GI doctor. I mean, I think I got the phone call while I was at work, and here I am anxious to, get these results. I don't really know what they're going to mean. I don't know what they're looking for. And she just called me and just said, yeah, we found some delayed emptying, and there really wasn't much information on gastroparesis. She did confirm that it was gastroparesis and to eat small frequent meals. That was about it.
So what did that mean to you? Like when you got the diagnosis, like what did you think it meant?
Well, it's funny. I hung up the phone, and I think the first thing I did was I called my mom, who's actually a nurse, who I had been living at home at the time, and she just saw how debilitated I was, and just desperate at this point for some answers. And I did what anyone does. I'm sure you did. I Googled it. And that, I think, right there, after I got that diagnosis and I started Googling, was probably what led to me just getting sicker and sicker throughout that summer after the diagnosis, because the internet is a scary place. And I read a lot of things about, the condition, things that could happen, things that, it eventually could lead to. And shortly after that, I was put on a prokinetic, erythromycin, which I know a lot of people do try at some point. But really, there was not a lot of support. There wasn't like a plan or anything that was put together, when I got this diagnosis. I just know that I couldn't handle any food. I couldn't eat a lot of food. I couldn't sleep at night. I had to, just laying flat was very difficult for me. And I was just scared. I just was really, really scared. And I just thought that this diagnosis meant that I was never going to have a normal life again. I was never going to be able to eat food, enjoy, food and drinks with friends. I had a lot of things planned that year and I had to just miss out on a lot of it, which, ultimately led to a lot of like depression because of it. There's this isolation, and it was very challenging at the time to try and accept this new sense of real and a new sense of normalcy for me, with not a lot of good resources and support.
Yeah, I think that experience is so common. I think I had,
Yeah.
Obviously a very similar experience with reading a lot of really scary things and a lot of other people's worried thoughts and scenarios. And I think that definitely does take a toll. So I can definitely relate to that experience. I'm curious where things went for you from there. You talked about wondering what your new normal would look like, and where did things go after that initial really difficult period of trying to figure out what you were dealing with?
Yeah. I mean, it was a time in my life where I just, had met my husband right now. There were a lot of exciting things that were happening for me, and I got really sick in the middle of it. And it just kind of put a lot of things on hold for me. And there was at first this sense of like, okay, no, this isn't happening. Like this, almost like I was in denial that I was sick, and I kept trying to just live my life the way I was prior to having all these symptoms. But then it would always be in the back of my head, like, no, I can't eat that. No, I can't do that, which just fed to more anxiety. And that's when I actually stumbled upon your books. I didn't realize that, we were from like the similar area, and it was great to connect with you. And I really found a lot of your management plans to be extremely helpful, because it allowed me to understand, what my body needed to be nourished in the best way possible, and restricting the fiber content, that really helped me out a lot, and understanding how, symptom management is different for everyone. So that really helped me. It did guide me. And, as time went on, I still was just trying to adapt to this. I ended up, unfortunately, actually leaving a job because I could no longer work. And, it was hard for me because I had like all these career aspirations and things that I wanted to do, but I just literally couldn't handle a job if I was up all night vomiting or not eating enough. I didn't have the energy. I didn't have the mental capacity to really do much. And I didn't want to have to explain it to anyone. It was challenging to explain it to some of my family members. They didn't really understand. So I was very much in the dark for a while. And I would say, after that, I just kind of stuck with what I knew I could eat, what wouldn't upset my stomach. And I stuck with that pretty firmly for a while. Very bland diet, small, frequent meals. I tried all different, different relaxation therapies. I've tried, acupuncture, all these different holistic things. And then I stopped focusing so much on trying to fix myself. And I think like you probably can relate to that. And I'm sure a lot of people who are listening can relate to that. And that in the beginning, when you get this diagnosis, you're almost like on this like madness, like of like this quest to fix yourself. Like, how can I get my old life and my old self back? And you get these little glimpses of hopes like, oh, that didn't bother my stomach. But the minute you get sick, you get this like letdown, and you get this, it's like this false sense of hope. And it just, each time that happens, it's really hard to see, beyond that point. So here we are in 2021. My life is much different now, but it really took a while to get to where I am today. And I think a lot of it had to do with time and patience, but also moving away from the constant focus on trying to fix. Why did this happen? What can I, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There was this sense of like acceptance and this, and a very like in a spiritual, but also like just, time goes on and you just kind of, you're over that like shock value
Yeah.
of what you just had, what was just told to me. I wasn't prepared to get that. So, yeah, I mean, it was pretty tough in the beginning, but as time went on, it got easier. And then I started to notice a shift.
And I think there's a lot to that. I think we talk a lot about, where we focus our attention, and not in some like woo woo way, but we experience our life through our thoughts and our thinking. And so if we are spending all of our time focused on our symptoms and how do I feel now? How do I feel now? How do I feel now? It only makes sense that we're going to have a much different experience than if we're paying attention to other things. If we're looking, through a wider lens at the rest of our life, with obviously gastroparesis still there. But I think that is a huge, huge piece.
Yeah, I mean, and that's something, like I said, that it really took a lot of time. I thankfully had a lot of things, a lot of people around me to kind of distract me and focusing so much on it after a while. Like I said, I was with my husband at the time who I just met. I was scared of, him leaving me and leaving this relationship, because in the beginning, like most of our conversations were completely centered around food and how I'm feeling and if I'm going to be able to sleep. And that can be really, really waxing on a relationship. And, I just got to a point where I just was so tired of talking about this, like this was just, I knew that like there is so much more to life, and like that's easier said. It's when you're in the moment and you're sick and you don't feel good and you can't really think this way. But what I'm saying is, with time in each day and, certain mindfulness practices that you can do and getting the heck off of the internet, can really make a difference. And one of the things that I mentioned last time we spoke that really helped me, and this is what kind of led me to believe that a lot of the things that I was experiencing weren't always like as severe as they were, because I think a lot of times I would build myself up to having symptoms, even if maybe they were mild, I would be like, oh my gosh, they're horrible. Was when you talked about the book by Lissa Rankin, Mind Over Medicine, that book was a huge game changer for me, because she really talks about how the mind is such a powerful part of your body. I mean, if you're on a forum that's talking about everyone who's just debilitated from this condition and everyone's putting on their, I'm in a feeding tube, you know what I mean? You're going to start to think that, yeah, this is what's going to happen to me. And this is going to be my end result. And you're going to start believing it. And, you know, I'm a firm believer that, you know, the mind will guide, the body will follow. And I think that's what happens to a lot of people when they get this condition. They just ultimately think that they're doomed and that they're just going to progressively get worse. And that's not always the case. So I think just the way you think about it and the way you talk to it about, you know, talk about it to people like, yeah, okay, I just can't eat this right now. I don't want to get up. I don't want to upset my stomach. So I'm going to eat this. And you just like start to kind of accept like, okay, this is just my normal right now. It's not forever, but right now in this present time, I'm going to eat this and this is what I'm going to do because it just feels comfortable to me. But that doesn't mean that I can't explore, you know, as time goes on. It's just baby steps that ultimately I think lead to, you know, a better life living with this condition.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's so true. You know, staying in the present moment is huge because so much, if not all, of our anxiety and our fear is coming from what's going to happen down the road, right? So staying present and worrying about now, like you said, like right now, I'm going to choose not to eat this, but that says absolutely nothing about, am I ever going to eat this food again? You know, am I ever going to have this experience again? So I love that you pointed that out. And I'd like to hear a little bit about what your experience is like today with gastroparesis.
Yeah. So, you know, I was really pleased when you asked me to do this because you know, when this all happened, I would see a lot of like videos of people who overcame this condition. And I remember always sitting on the other side being like, oh my God, I wish I could be like that. And I'm here today to talk about that I'm living my life like great. Everything's wonderful as far as, you know, my symptoms. You know, it's been 5 years now, a little over 5 years. I gave birth to a healthy baby boy this past August last year, and I didn't think I would be able to conceive, and I did. And you know, surprisingly, a lot of my symptoms even improved during pregnancy, which for some they do, not all, but and for the most part, you know, I've been able to put on some weight, and I have a job. I'm married, and I'm able to eat things now, right now, that I haven't eaten in like 5 years. And I want to be clear about this. That does not mean that I don't have symptoms sometimes, because I certainly do. And whether that's precipitated by stress or other things that are going on with me, I 100% still do have symptoms as far as heartburn, sometimes regurgitation. But it doesn't faze me. It doesn't bother me anymore because tomorrow's another day. Right now I'm dealing with this if that happens, but I always, you know that they're going to pass.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it's so important. I'm really glad that you pointed that out. You're not having a different experience because you are completely physically free of symptoms or even completely free of, you know, dietary restrictions. You know, I don't know exactly if there are still things that you choose not to eat or not, but, you know, for me, there are still things that I choose not to eat. And it's such a good distinction that, you know, the freedom doesn't come from what we all originally thought it was going to come from, right? Which is completely getting rid of this condition. It comes from just a different experience through understanding all of these pieces that you said of where your experience was even coming from. You know, the idea that you may have been feeling your symptoms more severely than maybe they objectively were because of all the thinking you had around them. Like, that's huge, you know? And I think that's sometimes difficult for people to look at because that feels a little uncomfortable, but that's the way our body works. You know, you were saying you think a lot of people kind of go down this spiral. And I think that's absolutely true. And it makes so much sense from a completely physiological standpoint. I mean, our guts and our brains are connected. The more time we spend on those forums reading about really unfortunate circumstances and really scary scenarios, of course, I mean, we're going to get a whole bunch of anxious thinking, which does different things in our gut than calm thinking. You know, it makes so much sense. But until you really see it in a way like you saw it, it's not always easy to go there.
Yeah, I think that, you know, it makes a huge difference when you kind of take the why and how out of the equation. And, you know, I focused so long on like why this happened to me, and was on this like quest to not only try and fix myself, but also figure out what happened. And, you know, I think the obsession and just, it just became like this, I'm trying to figure out the right word I want to use. It just became something that was like everything that I did. Like, it was just all I talked about, all I focused on. And those were the months and years that I didn't get better. I got worse. And, you know, once I started to kind of shift my focus on like just living life, just the best I could, and not even thinking about my illness, over time, I remember like one time I was sitting on the couch and my mom goes, "You haven't complained about that." Or my husband goes, "You're really eating that?" "Yeah." "Well, isn't that going to upset your stomach?" "Yeah, if I get sick, I get sick. It's okay. It doesn't mean I'm, you know, like dying." You know what I mean? So, and then I think that's when it kind of clicked. You know, I went on a trip and I didn't have like all my little snacks because I would always pack everything. Like, I went on a bachelorette party to New York City, and I was initially really nervous to go because I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to eat at all these restaurants. I wasn't sure, like, I knew I couldn't drink a lot of alcohol because of the reflux and stuff, but, you know, I had to go. I didn't want to miss out. And I remember I forgot like all my little snacks and everything. And we went out to dinner, and I just like got in conversation and completely forgot that I didn't have my like packed snacks, that I didn't eat a meal before we went out to a restaurant like I normally did, so that I could, you know, get enough calories in and get through the night. But I went to bed that night, and I woke up the next day and I'm like, oh my gosh, like life is okay. Like, I'm gonna be okay. And that was a good feeling. Things just after that got better and better.
Yeah. It's so funny how, you know, you happen to forget, but it's something
Mhm.
Lisa Rankin talks about, you know, a lot is looking at life like life has your back, right? Like
Yeah.
things are working for you instead of against you. And
Yeah.
I feel like that's one of those just totally serendipitous moments. Like, you know, you forgot, but there was so much more in that forgetting for you, and that realization that you're going to be okay. That's huge.
And you know, one of your other posts recently talks about like support groups, and that really resonated a lot with me, because I really felt like support groups weren't always the best for me, because it was nice to know that other people were also experiencing what I was experiencing, but everyone was in such a different, you know, stage, and everyone is different with any condition. So it took me a while to realize that like what I can eat maybe someone else can't eat, or what works for some person isn't necessarily going to work for me. And that's when I just kind of segued into my own, like, this is what my plan is for me. And this is what I know I can handle. This is what currently I can't handle, but I'd like to try down the road. And yeah, I mean, it's just an amazing feeling to right now in the present moment know that there really isn't much I can't eat anymore. Other than like nuts, I, for some reason, just still have a really hard time with like fatty peanut butter and certain things. But yeah, I can eat things. I'm no longer on a wedge pillow. That was that was a great feeling, not being able to lay down on a real pillow again. And I'm not even afraid if I get, debilitating symptoms again, because I know that I'll just deal with them and life will go on, and I'll have a better handle on it this time. And it'll pass again. That's just kind of the mindset. It's just things are going to come and go, and you just got to ride the wave.
That's perfect. That's perfect. So, I mean, you just said something really important and true, which is everybody's experience is different, and what works for one person isn't necessarily going to work for another person. But that being said, do you have a piece of advice or something you would like to share with somebody watching who maybe is newly diagnosed, who just got that phone call that you got back in 2016?
Yeah. Don't take this, news as like it's your life is over with. You know what I mean? Obviously, don't discredit what you're experiencing. It's very real and what you're feeling right now, but trust in the fact that people can get better from this. People can live with this. They're true. You've shown that. I am, obviously an example of that. And figure out what works for you. Don't focus so much on like what other things are telling you to do to deal with this. Start with what is currently working for me, what is not working for me. And use some of these tools that you can maybe find online or also through your books to kind of guide you. But at the end of the day, focus on how you feel at the present time, and try not to let, things on the internet discourage you from believing that you can get better from this. Try and stay as positive as you can and keep yourself busy with positive people and positive things, because sitting at home on a computer reading about this all day and night, it's not going to help you at all. Trust me, it's not.
I can attest to that as well.
It's not. You're not going to get, yeah, it's, you just got to keep yourself busy, and you've got to try and do things that make you happy, whether that's, going outside and going for a walk, or maybe you like to paint, maybe you are a musician, maybe you like to play sports. Even if you don't have the energy and you're tired and you're weak, and do what you can to focus as much on the positive things that you have in your life other than this illness.
Thank you for sharing your story. I think this is going to be really helpful for people. If people are going to believe something that they are seeing on the internet, they should listen to stories like this, because I feel like that's gonna uplift, and that's gonna bring you to a better state of mind.
Absolutely. I would have loved to have more of these types of stories to see at the time, but I'm happy to share this, and thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Megan. I hope you found it empowering and inspiring, and you heard something in it that will help you on your own journey toward living well with gastroparesis in the background of your life. Be sure to hit the subscribe button. I know it's been a little bit since I've uploaded, but I've had some stuff in the works and I have some really great videos coming your way. So be sure you're subscribed so that you don't miss any of it. You can also sign up for my mailing list. The link to that is in the description below. And that way I will be sure to keep you in the loop and you can stay in touch and find out what is coming as we continue to look at what it means to live well from this inside out perspective in relation to gastroparesis and truly everything else. So, a lot more to come. I hope you will stay tuned. Thank you so much for being here. Bye.